Tension is brewing ahead of a landmark three-way summit between the United States, South Korea and Japan tomorrow. Seoul's spy agency warns Pyongyang is preparing military provocations in protest at these trilateral talks and may even launch a long-range ballistic missile.
ICBM 발사 지원 차량 활동이 활발한 것이 평양 산음동 등에서 포착되었고 액체 연료 공장에서 추진제가 빈번히 반출되는 등 ICBM 발사 준비 징후가 계속 식별되고 있습니다.
The lawmaker says the North may also be planning a joint military exercise aimed at test launching its tactical nuclear weapons, as well as another spy satellite launch by early September. With Pyongyang dialing up the pressure on its adversaries, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida says closer ties between the United States, Japan and South Korea are more important than ever.
今我が国を取り巻く安全保障環境一層厳しさを増す中にあって、このタイミングで日米韓首脳会談を行う、この日米韓のこの3カ国の首脳が一堂に会することは大変意義深いものであると思っています。
The Japanese and South Korean leaders have already departed for the U.S. summit. President Joe Biden will be hosting them at Camp David tomorrow. It will be the first visit by foreign leaders to the historic presidential retreat since 2015. It will also be the first ever standalone summit among the three countries. And topping the agenda is defense cooperation amid growing regional threats posed by both China and North Korea. Benji Hai looks ahead to this meeting.
We've been here before. The pomp, the ceremony, the camaraderie on display. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol at the White House in April.
Prime Minister, it's great to see you again.
Just months earlier, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in the Oval Office for a fireside chat. President Joe Biden also visited both countries back-to-back last year. More recently, all three men stood side by side at the G7 summit in Japan, and then at a NATO gathering in Lithuania. This week, they're back together on American soil.
The reason for this meeting so soon after having just met in June at the NATO sidelines is really to sustain this momentum and to try to really institutionalize this trilateral relationship.
There's lots to discuss, not least China. The two Asian allies of the United States regard what they view as Beijing's increasing assertiveness and military posturing across the Taiwan Strait as a threat to their national security and to US efforts to contain its geopolitical rival.
South China Sea has been an area of concern where the Chinese have been building up these artificial islands, militarizing these artificial islands. So I think they'll make a statement about, reinforcing, the freedom of navigation, supporting rules-based order.
And what of North Korea? Former US President Donald Trump's groundbreaking handshakes with Kim Jong-un in Singapore and the demilitarized zone seem a world away. The harsh rhetoric, the nuclear tests have returned.
We saw earlier this year the U.S. and South Korean president issue the Washington Declaration, which continue to guarantee mutual defense. Hopefully out of this we could see more commitments for trilateral exercises, for example. Information sharing is always important. Locking this in so that we don't have to worry about future political considerations, for example, in case the Biden administration is no longer there, or the Kishida administration or Yoon administration, because they eventually will change out.
This meeting is unlikely to be the vote winner for Joe Biden. His Asia pivot won't be on the minds of most Americans when they head to the ballot box in 2024. But it sets a tone that could have global implications. These are two counterparts with whom the US president, on many fronts, seemingly sees eye to eye. There is potential for enduring collaboration. That's not to say there aren't issues that still need to be ironed out.
some of the policies that the Biden administration have pursued at home, while they've been good for U.S. growth and making some critical investments in clean energy, for example, that will help reduce costs and provide new technologies for people, there is a sort of protectionist bent to some of that Biden administration policy that does concern allies. So I think there's still some doubts on the economic side about the Biden administration approach to the region.
The fact the leaders have met so regularly of late is a sign perhaps that they realise forging a path in the future may be more important than strained relations in the past. For now, their focus is on preventing, as Yoon sung in the White House, bad news on the doorstep. Benji Haya, CNA, Washington, D.C.